Today I'm going to give you an overview of this research from working with the local trust to develop a quantitative evidence-based measure of neighbourhoods with poor social infrastructure and low social capital, the Community Needs Index. As we've only got about 7 minutes, it's going to be quite a whistle-stop tour, so a bit of a warning in advance. There'll be a lot of content on some of the slides, and we will be sending them around afterwards to give you time to fully digest. So the Community Needs Index was conceived as an attempt to measure some of the processes that local trusts have been observing in many of the communities in which it was working in through big local programmes. These were often peripheral areas with shared characteristics where residents were consistently identifying spaces to meet and poor connectivity as key priority issues to address, while an active and engaged community was seen as a necessary ingredient to help affect meaningful change and tackle some of the deprivation challenges in these neighbourhoods. The index incorporates community and social challenges which haven't been captured in traditional deprivation metrics, most notably the indices of deprivation. So these include things like poor community and civic infrastructure, low levels of participation and engagement in the wider community. And it's different from the index of multiple deprivation. So it's not so much about the presence of some of the bad stuff that you get in communities, that kind of unemployment, crime, ill health, or wider economic and deprivation challenges. It's more about some of the absences of some of the kind of positive things, the active and vibrant third sector, the well-developed social networks, or the strong presence of civic assets that can help support the social fabric of the place. So the Community Needs Index aims to use the best available open data from administrative and survey sources at a hyperlocal level in order to capture these social infrastructure challenges. So the index brought together over 50 indicators, which I won't listen to this presentation for a very short time, but they were brought together from a wide range of sources, including government departments, the third sector and commercial organisations. And these were grouped together into 3 domains, which I'll quickly run you through now. So the first domain, civic assets, measures the presence of key community, civic, educational and cultural assets in the area. The second domain is connectedness, which looks at connectivity both in physical terms, how easy it is to access key services such as health services, connectivity in terms of digital connectivity, also social connectivity with a measure of loneliness and social isolation. It also looks at access to public and private transport, how strong the local jobs market is, and how easy it is to access certain services such as GP services. Finally, the active and engaged community domain measures levels of active participation in community and civic life. It also considers some barriers to participation, perceptions of social cohesion, and strength of the third sector locally. The indicators were standardised and weighted together and combined into those 3 domains, which were themselves then standardised and weighted and combined to produce an overall community needs index. And the map behind me shows the average community needs score aggregated up to local authority level. Areas shaded dark blue have the highest needs. And as you can be shown on the map, these tend to be found particularly concentrated within the east of the country. So there's a large concentration in the kind of wash area of North Cambridgeshire, South Lincolnshire, around the agricultural fenland areas. There are concentrations around the Humber estuary. And there are concentrations in a lot of former industrial areas, particularly around South Yorkshire, the East Midlands, County Durham. The Community Needs Index has been designed to combine with other frameworks to identify needs at a hyperlocal level. Most notably, in 2019, we combined the Community Needs Index with the indices of deprivation to capture those areas experiencing that dual disadvantage of high levels of deprivation, but also poor social infrastructure. And any areas ranking in the top 10% of both of these measures were identified as left behind neighbourhoods. There are 225 of these left behind neighbourhoods in total, and the map behind me shows the areas with the highest concentration of communities identified as left behind. It's kind of slightly similar to the Community Needs Index as a whole, as that was one of the key kind of components of it. But what you do tend to see is high concentrations in outlying housing estates around our larger cities, particularly in the North and Midlands, also in former mining and industrial areas of the North and Midlands, in some of the kind of poor communities such as Teesside, and also in coastal communities throughout England. There are generally lower concentrations within London, apart from at the fringes, and also lower concentrations in southwest England. The research found that left behind neighbourhoods generally performed poorly on a range of socioeconomic indicators, even in comparison with other areas that were similarly deprived but had stronger social infrastructure. Moreover, there's some evidence to suggest that they're less resilient to shocks and changes and starting to fall behind other similarly deprived areas. And there's a possible contributing factor to this is that they lack some of the civic resources and social capital to address and mitigate some of the challenges that they're experiencing. So the research has provided the evidence base for the Field Party parliamentary group, led by neighbours in the room we're sitting in. And the Community Needs Index itself is starting to gain wide usage as well. For example, it was cited as a key measure of social capital in the government's Levelling Up white paper. And it's been used as a component in supporting the distribution of a range of Levelling Up programmes, including most recently the DCMS's Know Your Neighbourhoods Fund. So it's gaining quite a lot of traction and usage. So just hot off the press, we have just finished an update to the Community Needs Index for 2023. So the overarching aim of this update was to create a refined model which made use of the most up-to-date data. We're mindful we really want to reflect some of the profound social changes over the last few years in the context of things like, most lately, I guess, the global pandemic and the impacts that has on social infrastructure. We also wanted to consult more widely with this update, so we've incorporated feedback from a range of expert stakeholders with the establishment of an advisory group which brought in academics, researchers and policymakers with a key interest in developing the evidence-based measure of social infrastructure. And some of these came from central government, such as DLAC and DCMS, also from large central organisations such as the National Lottery. This was then supplemented with a formal consultation progress in order to gather the views of the wider user community. And through this feedback, we've identified new and more robust measures and made slight refinements to the methodology. The second motivation for refreshing the Community Needs Index was to update the use of geography. We used in the context of changes to statistical geographies brought out with the 2021 census. So the new measure is produced at lower level output area level. These were selected because they're a stable geography. They only change every census. They're homogeneously sized and they're more granular than the wards which we used previously. So that helps us identify pockets of need, particularly in rural areas where small spatial scale can uncover hidden needs that are obscure to large geographies. And given the Community Wealth Fund is to be targeted at communities that experience both high levels of deprivation and low social capital at this hyperlocal level, we believe that the Community Needs Index, in combination with the indices of deprivation, would be well suited for identifying areas to target. This is partly because the development of the Community Needs Index itself was conceptually shaped by interactions with the indices of deprivation, and it was created specifically to capture social infrastructure challenges in areas that also experience multiple deprivation challenges, because we recognise that social infrastructure challenges are more acute for those communities that also experience challenges around low income, workforce and poor health. We therefore designed the Community Needs Index so that the two frameworks could be straightforwardly combined together, and with indicators only considered for the Community Needs Index where they weren't already included in the indices of deprivation. So made sure there was no overlap and no double counting. Also, by producing the Community Needs Index at this LSRA level, it's sufficiently flexible to produce a combined data set at a range of spatial scales in order to capture those social capital needs and deprivation challenges for quite a diverse range of